Hey there guys, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and today let's talk about these crazy Nintendo Switch sales. So we've finally been given an update on the current status of the sales for the Nintendo Switch in terms of units sold and in terms of software, and also some pretty cool comparisons between other hardware available on the market. And also, some of the updates for overall unit sales for some of the biggest games on the Nintendo Switch, and man, I gotta tell you, Nintendo has to be rolling in money right now. It is crazy. It is definitely more impressive than I was expecting. I mean, we all know that the Switch is a huge hit, and Nintendo is doing very well, and they're making and releasing awesome games that are selling like crazy. But some of these numbers, mostly for the games, not so much for the Switch itself, but for some of these game titles, they're crazy impressive, and I'm really happy to see it. So obviously the biggest news here is the Nintendo Switch itself, which has officially passed 52 million units in sales in just under 3 years. That is so crazy and super impressive. And also part of this story is the fact that it also managed to finally surpass the Super Nintendo in lifetime sales. The Super Nintendo, you can see here, has sold 49.1 million units in its lifetime. And that's really great news, although I do have to say, here's the thing. This has been the big headline that's being run right now. Nintendo Switch surpasses SNES in sales. It's so crazy, it's unstoppable. You know, the next up is the Nintendo Entertainment System, for example. That's the next Nintendo console in line. And that's been the big headline, and it is great information. It's very cool. It is impressive to a degree. But it's also not quite as impressive as I think some people are making it out to be. I think that some things that people are either forgetting or that they're outright ignoring because they want the flashier headlines out there is the fact that when the Super Nintendo was Nintendo's current and relevant machine, the gaming industry was a completely different place. The size of the gaming industry, the amount of gamers out there, the amount of money being filtered into the gaming hobby was a fraction of what it is today. It is a totally different world now than it was back in the early 90s. So when we look at the SNES having sold 49 million units in its day, a console that ran from like, what, 1991 to like 96 or 97 or so, I want to say. I mean, the Nintendo 64 came out in 96, and I'm not sure if the Super Nintendo was officially dead by then or not. I can't remember because I was too excited to be playing my Nintendo 64, but we'll just say from 91 to 96, so we'll say that 5 years. At that time, 49 million units was huge. That was a very, very big number, even though, yes, the NES, the generation before, sold quite a bit more at 60 some odd million units. We can't pretend like 49 million units at that time wasn't the equivalent of maybe 70 or 80 million units today. You know, if accounted for like video game inflation, if we pretended that we could add inflation to video game numbers, I feel like 49 million units in the early 90s is the equivalent of 70 or 80 million today, which would mean by inflation standards, if we were to go by those numbers, that the Switch would not yet have surpassed the amount of sales, you know? And so you have to kind of look at it that way. So, you know, I don't want to pretend like it's not very cool and impressive. I am really glad to see the Switch doing so well. I think it's awesome to see that it surpassed the Super Nintendo, even though I think I still prefer the Super Nintendo as a machine. I think it's really great. But we have to remember how different gaming is and how many more people are gaming nowadays. And also the fact that your average gamer has their own income to spend now. And in the 90s, most of us who were gaming, we were kids. We didn't have our own money to spend. We had to rely on our parents buying things for us. And in my opinion, that puts a completely different value on the sales of games and game consoles back in the day compared to how it is nowadays. And so, you know, again, I'm not trying to super downplay what the Switch has done. I just think that people need to remember the difference, okay? It's very, very important. Now, as I said, the next up as far as Nintendo consoles for the Nintendo Switch to pass is the NES at 60 million units, and I'm sure that that's going to happen sometime this year. Nintendo has upped their sales forecast because they've seen such strong momentum for the Nintendo Switch. And it's really crazy, you know, and it reminds me of a conversation that a lot of people have had and that I have also had with you guys a few times about whether or not the Nintendo Switch can crack 100 million units. And for the longest time, I said that no, the Nintendo Switch probably won't be able to crack 100 million units, mostly because of how long I think the Nintendo Switch will be on store shelves, and the fact that I have been predicting that Nintendo might move on to their successor console before it has an opportunity to do this. And while I still think that that very likely could be the case, I can't lie. Every time we get new updates on sales for the Nintendo Switch, it surprises me, and it makes me wonder if maybe I've been wrong when I've been saying that, and maybe there is a chance that the Switch could surpass 100 million units. And in that respect, it could also potentially surpass the Nintendo Wii in sales, which is really crazy to think about. Now, I'm not yet ready to put all of my chips on that, okay? I don't 100% know that I feel like that's going to happen just yet, but I will say that the Switch is getting closer and closer to really proving me wrong 100%. And if that happens, then great. I'm not going to be sad about it or like ashamed that maybe my predictions from 2 years ago were incorrect. I'll be really happy to see that Nintendo and the Switch are doing so well. Like, I'd rather them do better than my prediction than for my prediction to be right, you know? Like, I'm not that selfish that I would rather just be correct in what I thought 2 years ago. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. Now, if we move to the software sales, this is crazy. This is so impressive and so neat to see. You can see Mario Kart 8 Deluxe easily is the top dog. What a freaking monster that game is. And this is only on the Switch. We have to remember the game sold about 8 million or so units on the Wii U itself, its original console. Here on the Switch, we can see 22.96, basically 23 million units. This game has sold over 30 million units in its lifetime. That is monstrous. I cannot believe it. Also, some of the other big titles, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, the second best seller on the console at 17 million. That is amazing. Odyssey and Breath of the Wild are over 16 million, and even Pokemon Sword and Shield. This is a huge story here, that this game that was so divisive and all the Pokemon fans hated this game and wanted nothing to do with it and wanted to just burn Game Freak down to its ashes. Here you see it's at 16 million, and I think that I've heard out there somewhere that that makes it the fastest or even best-selling Pokemon game ever. I mean, if that's the case, then to all the Pokemon fans out there, which I remind you, I am not a Pokemon fan, but to all of you guys out there, what's going on? Why are you guys so not on the same page? Why all the controversy and the hate and the screaming, you know, and the vitriol out there just to see this game sell this way? And also the reviews were pretty good. It was lots of 8s and 8.5s I saw out there, some worse and some better. But on average, I think I saw a lot of reviews in the 8s. And so, what's going on? I'm asking a genuine, sincere question as a non-Pokemon fan. Like, why has the whole thing been this way just for the game to review and sell this way? I gotta say, it makes a pretty big case for itself. Also, I'm very surprised by Super Mario Party at over 9 million units. Holy crap. Luigi's Mansion 3, I am thrilled to see at 5 million units. That makes me so happy. Fire Emblem 3 Houses, 2.5 million units. I was hoping for more, but it's still great to see that that game did so well. Ring Fit Adventure, I cannot believe, has sold 2 million units. And both Astral Chain and Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 moving over 1 million units. Man, all these great games selling so well on the Nintendo Switch. There's first and third-party games here, you guys. I mean, Astral Chain and Marvel Ultimate Alliance are third-party games, and they've done really, really well. That's great to see. And so overall, when we look at the sales picture for the Nintendo Switch, it's crazy impressive. And so at the end, I'll just remind you guys of a couple of things. I think it's great that the Nintendo Switch has surpassed the Super Nintendo, but we have to also remember the difference in sales and the size and the money of the video game industry in the 90s compared to today. And also, there is a chance that the Switch might actually be able to surpass 100 million units and maybe even surpass the Nintendo Wii in its life. That could be really crazy to see, but I would like to see it happen. And as far as games, it's like, hey, video game companies, what are you doing? If you're not putting your game on the Nintendo Switch, you're crazy. The market is here, the consumer is here, the sales are here. I mean, everything you should want to see is right there and available to you. I would love to see a larger list of third-party sales and understand where games like Doom and Resident Evil and whatnot have actually sold on the console, or a Mortal Kombat 11. Some of these games that we know have done really, really well. I'm actually surprised to see some of them apparently haven't surpassed 1 million units, or maybe they're just not including all of those games here. But I would have to think like a Doom or a Mortal Kombat 11 sold over 1 million units on the Switch. I would be surprised if they didn't. So hopefully we get those numbers sometime soon. But at the end of the day, this is just crazy. The Switch is really impressive. I'm very happy to see Nintendo doing so well in the face of strong competition from Sony and Microsoft. And we know it's going to get tougher with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X coming this year. but Nintendo is resilient, man. So I think that they're gonna probably just end up being just fine. So that's a quick update on the Nintendo sales front. Pretty cool stuff, very exciting. What do you guys think? Are you as impressed as I am? Or are you maybe not so impressed? Do you think it could sell 100 million units, or do you think not so? Whatever you think, share it below, and with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, and this is Rob of Rule of 2 Review. I will catch you guys next time on another video.